Another day, another review. This time the game that is up for review is Atelier Sophie 2, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream, which is the sequel to the original Atelier Sophie, which released back all the way in 2015 in Japan and 2016 in the US, Europe and UK. The code was provided by Koei Tenko, so again, thank you very much. And now we'll dive right into it. Alright, so now we're going to go on about the story. Now, I won't go too much into detail of the story as, you know, spoiler territory, and we all know how people are with spoilers, but the main gist of it is that Sophie and her compatriot Placta are sucked into a different world, both separated, and now Sophie's trying to look for her so they can, you know, somewhat return back to where they was before. But in this world that they are in right now is a version like a dream world pretty much. So the people that Sophie meet are like related to all the people that she's met in her journeys before. Some of them she hasn't met, but like you can see that there's like ancestral stuff there as well. And she also meets someone who resembles like her friend, but like an earlier version of her, and her own grandma, which she's not too sure about because, you know, she don't know if it's the truth yet. But overall, that's the main gist of the story. Now I could actually go on and on and on, but I don't really like to like deep dive into the story because I know some people actually want to figure out for themselves. But my overall thoughts on the story, it was alright. You know, most of the times these stories in the Atelier games, they're not, in my opinion, too engaging, but the characters make it worthwhile, especially like their funny interaction. That's always like been the charm for me for these types of games. But some people might disagree and say that the game's got a great story and everything. Personally, I don't think it's the greatest. It could be better because it is like pretty much straightforward. Find your friend, beat the boss, and go home pretty much. But you do meet some interesting characters. You do meet how they're all connected to Sophie in some way or another form. Not all of them though, but most of them. But apart from that, yeah, I say I enjoyed myself somewhat to an extent. So for story, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 really. Now we're on about the gameplay. So gameplay in Atelier Sophie 2 is basically, I say, gone back to its roots to an extent. So it's changed from what Rise 2 was, which was a more or less real-time tactics type of battle system, which I enjoyed, but I also saw some of the faults of it as well. So in this game, you've basically gone back to turn-based, so you always have enough time to decide what moves you want to do, what items you want to use, which obviously it slows down the battle a bit, but it gives us more control of the situation, I would say. So for people that are into turn-based systems, this is like a no-brainer. You get this with so much ease. But there are a few hidden, I wouldn't say mechanics, but stuff that can help you out really in these types of battles. So there's an ability that, I wouldn't say ability, but a feature in the game that's called twin action, which allows you to use the current user or the current party member and another party member who is in the support. So you can both use both of their moves and deal additional damage. Now obviously this can be upgraded to the triple version where you're allowed to use another member, which honestly just pretty much breaks the game at this point, because there's a feature where bosses have an aura which you have to break down, and once you break it down they are stunned. And now if they're stunned, you can basically deal always critical damage to them, even more if you've got the like items that are synthesized, or like accessories I should say, that allow you to deal more damage when an enemy is stunned. I had this issue with one boss where I stunned it and literally it just did not get a turn again at all. So I would say difficulty wise, even on hard mode, it's really not that hard. Now as for very hard and beyond, which I know one trophy alluded to, it could be slightly different, but if you're playing New Game Plus at that point, you're gonna just steamroll through the whole game. Apart from that change, most stuff are still similar to previous entries. So for example, when it comes to gathering items and stuff, you have a level tier system with it. So you've got the first level, second level allows you to get better items, and third level to get even more better items. Sometimes they mix and match depending on what type of gathering method you're using. So for example, if you're gathering from the floor and you wanted a certain item and it's like level 2, you need to upgrade that, or for some reason it could be like level 1 as if you're using your staff or like a sickle or whatever. Now in terms of upgrading these is much it's much more straightforward compared to Riser 2. So in Riser 2, you basically had to synthesize your items again, like with higher quality items to get it to that level. But in this game, you can use ability points, which is explained in the game, which allows you to increase your HP, attack, speed, evasion, all of that jank. And it also allows you to increase your capacity for like how many items you can carry when you're on the fields, because we all know when it comes to these games, every time you see an item that you can harvest, you'll go for it, but you just run out of space too quickly. And it also allows you to upgrade the quality of the items you get from them, the quantity as well, and as I was saying, the level for these types of gathering methods as well. So personally, I think that's a welcome change, because keeping synthesizing again and again, I won't lie, it was slightly annoying in Riser 2. It wasn't too tedious, but this just makes it more simple for the user player base, which I guess that's what they were trying to go for, maybe. I don't know, maybe they could have just done something else, who knows. Now, in terms of ability points, they're more or less like the same as previous games. You know, they give you a task to do, so it'd be like defeat 10 Poonies, or synthesize 10 times with this person, or basically something different, right? And yeah, it could be sometimes a bit of a grind, but it's really not too bad. And using these ability points really helps with the game going forward. Now, obviously, if you want a challenge where you're not stupidly OP, then you don't always have to do these, but it's there for the people that want to do it. Now, there's also another way to get ability points, which is basically going for landmarks wherever you are. So even in the city, on the fields, there's always a landmark, and you can get ability points for like certain characters that when you fulfill the conditions. Difficulty wise, I would say Sophie 2 is really not too hard. I didn't really struggle with any bosses, maybe one boss at the start, but it's a thing that I said before, once you stun them, you can literally stun off them for like the rest of the battle pretty much. So you could play on hard, it's not too bad, but you know, if you just want to enjoy the story or whatever, then just play on normal easy, and then maybe you can play on very hard once you finish the game. So with all that said, overall, I would say gameplay wise is good. It's nice that it's kind of gone back to its turn-based system. I know some people like that more than real-time tactics. Personally, I enjoy both. I can see strengths and weaknesses for both of the types of systems. So, you know, it's just a pick and choose of which one you like more. But overall, I would give gameplay an 8 out of 10. Now for the PC impressions, which is what most people are here for, I would think, when it comes to my reviews, because I usually always get them on PC. So, how the PC version holds up. Overall, not too bad. Now, I would say there are a few issues that I've run into when playing the game, and for one main issue was stuttering. So for some reason, when I'm synthesizing or just in the Atelier itself, trying to like do stuff pretty much, for some reason the game will stutter slightly, and my GPU fan will just start to ramp up really high, and I'm just like, what the hell's happening? I have a 3080 by the way, so it should really just be no problem in this game. So there might be some optimization issues here and there, but it's not game breaking. As for like crashes or anything, didn't have any throughout my whole time playing, which, you know, is always good, because when it crashes a lot, then it just ruins the whole experience for me. But yeah, it's kind of surprising how the game would somewhat stutter when you're like in a Atelier pretty much, in a like neutral area, but when I'm in battle or in the field or anything, the game literally like runs flawless. So not too sure what happened there, Koei, or I should say Gust, because they're the developers pretty much. Graphical options in the game are somewhat decent, you know, it's not too bare bones. You actually have a decent amount of options to pick from, so from like motion blur and everything. If you want to play windowed, borderless, or full screen, I always play borderless because it just makes it easy when tabbing out. They also have like depth of field, bloom, all of that. So yeah, it has a fair amount of options, so it shows that they're going in the right direction when it comes to these PC ports. However, there is one problem that wasn't a problem, I guess it's just something tedious, I would say, is that the fact that if you want to quit the game and you're playing on controller, there's like a dedicated button for it. you actually have to press the escape button on your keyboard to bring up that menu and quit the game, which I guess is not too bad, but you would think they would at least implement it there, right? But yeah, they didn't. But I would say it's much better than the previous games where you literally didn't even have it there as an option. You only found out by like luck, and they actually had to patch it in later on, which is a bit of a red flag in my eyes, but they are learning, so I'll give them that. But overall, PC port, I'll give it a 7.5. It's actually done quite well, so it shows that they can actually do a decent PC port. With all that said, now we come to the verdict for Atelier Sophie 2. It is a great game all round, especially for fans of the series, which manages to build on previous Atelier games that have come out in the past, while still having that same feel that it brings to the fans. I would definitely recommend this for JRPG fans. It's like literally a no-brainer, but I would recommend getting the PC version compared to console, because for some reason they didn't do a PS5 version for this game, and the PS4 version runs at 30 FPS. Now I know that's not a deal breaker for everyone, but if you want like a nice smooth experience, PC's the only way, which is a shame because they done it for Ryza 2, but for this one they just seem to not have bothered. I don't know if they're going to do it later on. If they are, fine, but nothing's been said. But honestly, it should have been there from day one, really. And this game should be able to run 60 FPS on the PS4, so I'm not too sure what's going on there. But I'd say overall, yeah, the game I would recommend. I would say though that with all this said, I think Gus, Koei, I think they definitely need like a bigger budget for these types of games, because I feel they can definitely improve on what they've built on already, because right now it's more or less the same formula, which I guess is not too bad. If it's not broke, don't fix it, but at the same time you might want to try and change something up after like all these years. So maybe one day that might happen, but that's a discussion for another day. So final score of the game, 8 out of 10. Recommended? Yes. With all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you guys later.